Okay, so that was the last reset, 1728. And I want to read this to y'all real quick, just so y'all can see what happened. It says, having lost the war against the Anunnaki, the custodians returned to find their most prized human colony in a state of great technological advancement and rebellion. It says, fearing they would lose control completely, the custodians again joined the Anunnaki in a treaty to plan a new reset. And it says the reset was carried out through a great mud flood generated by the Anunnaki pyramids combined with the controlled explosions to destroy the great cores in the center of Tartarus. You're right. You said that they came. Rashad Jamal was talking about how they came from nowhere.
Yeah, I heard him say
it's because they did come from nowhere. They came from outside the ice wall. The Anunnaki have to intermingle with Tiamat to create peace so that they can actually rule the whole galaxy. So when they did that, they created 13 tribes, which is one of them is the African American, and a bunch of other different tribes. You got different types of black looking people. You got Klingon looking people, Draconian Klingons, Theon looking black people, you know, because their species is mixing together to create the perfect species, which is the African American. And that's why the African American is the true rulers of the whole entire galaxy, because we have the genetics of every creature in the world. So this is all just a genetic, big old giant genetic war. Genetic war, genetic war, genetic war, genetic war. So the Anunnaki and the custodians are basically some goddamn haters, right? Because they don't want us to take the rulership of the galaxy. They want to keep resetting us back and keep resetting us because they don't want us to claim dominion. Because we are the remaining children of Tiamat, and this is actually we're actually the rulers of this whole realm. So this is all just basically, and also we have the ability to transcend into the fifth dimension. That's something the Anunnaki and the Greys can't do. That's why they're trying to figure out what's the deal about us, because we can transcend to the fifth dimension and they can't, because our mother, which is where we all come from, Tiamat, is from the fifth dimension. They're not from the fifth dimension. You see what I'm saying? They fell in frequency to their realm. So the Lyrans fell in frequency and the Draconians fell in frequency when they used to be at the fifth dimension. So they're trying to find their way back to the higher realms. They're trying to find their way back into heaven, but they can't because they genetically manipulated themselves so much that they had to basically bring it back in with Tiamat. And that's what that war was about. That whole war about Marduk basically coming over there to conquer Tiamat so that they could still have dominion over the galaxy.
Are you familiar of the war in Normanburg?
Yeah, I heard about that before. Yeah,
that was basically that was something to do with Tartaria. Now they alleged that it was 1561, but we know what happened before that. But what they said, Mama T, is they seen spaceships and all that blasting shit up. It's people that actually drew pictures of what they seen. They seen ships, UFO type ships, spraying lasers down and all that. Now we seen what happened in Hawaii when they had the ability of literally, I believe they use direct energy weapons where they can literally, and then you heard about people hang blue on their roof. And blue actually repels laser technology because there's something special about blue, the color blue. And this is why in Hoodoo, they use Hank blue. They paint their windowsills with Hank blue and things of that nature. And why the evil eye is blue to repel what they call blue hags. Just like they use direct energy weapons to actually eradicate Tartaria and cause the mud flood, I believe that now here's the thing. Because we saying they ain't changed the timeline since Tartaria, but for all we know, they probably have a new way to reset us.
They also have a timeline that is finite. Like,
because these Anunnaki had technological weapons. For example, Marduk had a weapon called the Hulu, which can manipulate wind. Inky had a trident where he can actually, like you see Aquaman with the trident. This is Inky. He had the ability of manipulating water with technological devices like the trident. All right.
Ah, here it is. This is a weather stick. You can control the elements with it. Whoa!
Where did you get this?
I got it from my friends, the Placeans. It's quite flexible, if you know how to use it.
And when Arushka Girl basically went to war with Inanna, the story goes that Arushka Girl basically killed Inanna. But Inky had the ability of rejuvenating her, bringing her back to a quantum rejuvenation chamber. But after seeing what Arushka Girl and the Dark Brotherhood did, he realized that information will be put in nefarious hands. So the story goes that he basically flooded Atlantis with his trident, basically to stop the nefarious factions from ascertaining that information from Atlantean science.
I just wanted to clarify that with people when we talk about extraterrestrial, they're always thinking boogeymen, little green Martians, and shit like that. There's humanoids, there's human beings all over the galaxies. There's human type beings. All right. So I just wanted to just make that clear for people like in the back.
Now I was talking also about Osiris being green earlier, right? And I wanted to just say something about that. Now, the reason why we was greens and blues, like different colors, is because at ancient times, we didn't have iron. Our skin had magnesium in it before it was replaced with iron. And the oxygen in our metallics is rusted out. This is why certain people are born with Mongolian birthmarks and still born with green birthmarks and blue, because in ancient times, we really were blues and bright greens. Okay. We were different luminous colors. All right. We have more magnesium in our skin.
That's interesting. Now, is that something to do with the oxygen too? Because was this dome always here? Or did something trap us up in the air?
Well, according to ancient texts, the dome was placed over us by the Anunnaki, by the Anunnaki, by different beings that pretty much, it's almost like a prison planet in a sense, to some degree. Damn. It's a hydrogen dome. Some say you got to go 33 times the speed of sound in order to bypass the firmament.
Some say you got to go 33 times the speed of sound in order to bypass the firmament.
We actually activated our Merkaba and actually came over to this planet, but we came from over from Mars, but we inhabited that planet also. This is why Marvin the Martian is depicted in blackface and dressed like a Moor.
Dude, facts. Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah, he got the Moor colors on. If you look at Marvin,
isn't he? Yes, he is.
Marvin the Martian. This is why they put him. They say he's from Mars. They show us in Hollywood all the time.
Okay. This is a great question. Where the hell these people come from? Okay, because if we were here, we had this ancient civilization. How did they get here? There's a theory that said they didn't get here until 1492. And all the stories and histories that they're teaching us, they're fabricated, right? About their stories and their history, that they actually landed here in 1492. Not just landed in America, but landed on everywhere earthly realm.
And you know what?
I have that.
I believe that, fam. In conclusion, with all of this stuff that we've been going over, I believe Atlantis, Tartaria was really all over the whole damn globe and reset everything and said it was just in certain parts, just to try to distort our visual perception of how advanced we really was as an entirety.
Those people were schooled by another people of that area, which I call Moors. Those people came up and actually, pushed the Moors out, but then they came here. So what people don't understand is a lot of teachings that come from that culture goes into their culture. They perfected it and brought it over here, and they lay it on thick over here. See, that's what people don't understand.
When we go to these different areas, even just through the Caribbean, through Mexico, it's Spanish, it's French, right? Or it's Italian, right? So are they the originators of this language? And how did they get overthrown by some people that they've educated?
So basically, the Caucasian people come from the Caucasus Mountains of Asia Minor. That's where the word Caucasus Asian comes from, Caucasian. Okay, so this is where the origins of the Neanderthal is actually from. If you actually go to the mountains of Ukraine and the Caucasus Mountains, you'll see that there's caves still there for the Neanderthals. Those caves are in the walls of the mountains because they was placed there, like almost as if somebody built it for them to live there. Like the Flintstones. The Flintstones, they start off in the mountains. You see what I'm saying? With the dragons and all this and that there. But just to cover about I want to talk about two things. The 1492 thing, you're right. You said that it came, Rashad Jamal was talking about how they came from nowhere.
Yeah, I heard him say
it's because they did come from nowhere. They came from outside the ice wall.
I'm sorry, what?
Ancestral Republic. That's what they talk about in the book. How majority of the people had passed away on the earth, so they needed to create more people like them, clones. So they created the clones on the Ancestral Republic and brought all their asses over to everywhere. They started scattering them around to basically reset the whole earth. They added 1,000 years to the timeline. You know what I'm talking about, wordplay, right? It's not 1492 that Cortez came to America. It's 492. 492. Check this out. Since you took 1,000 years off the timeline, you got to condense all the history into one and watch how that stuff fits right into place. So basically, so check this out. Rome fell when? 500 AD. The same time the Dark Ages happened in England, 500 AD. And Cortez invaded America when? 8 years before the fall of Rome? You see what I'm saying? You see how all the stuff was happening at the same time? Rome was here, England, America was here. It was all happening at the same time. You see what I'm saying? But what they did was they added 1,000 years to separate the history. See, King Arthur was in 450 AD. That's what King Arthur was. He was a black man. King Arthur was 450 AD. So you mean to tell me 40 years later, Cortez will come invade America? See, you got to take 1,000 years.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not 1805, it's I-805. So it's not, they added 1,000 years to history to confuse us so we can separate the history. But if you take 1,000 years off, you got to condense all the wars and everything into like almost 1,000 years. When them pilgrims came here, we already had cars and airplanes and boats. Everything was already here. They didn't build anything new. And so the hydrogen is what we use for fuel instead of gas. Everything was water-based. So they ain't built nothing. Of course, we're indigenous. We're indigenous to America. We're indigenous to the earth. You know what I'm saying? The whole planet. We're indigenous. Right. The clones, or what they're calling, these Caucasians, were created by the custodians. The custodians created them to basically watch us. And they have the DNA of the custodians. And that's why they don't have the melanin of Tiamat. Because they're not from Tiamat. They clone them so that they could actually reset the whole population again, because when we get too high and too strong and too aware, they bring us back down. So they had 7 resets total.
Obviously, I hope and assume this will be the final version. No, I know it will be. All the kinks have been worked out. This is the one.